Hey everyone, welcome, I'm MisterBo, and in today's video we're going to be discussing the future locations for Destiny 2 DLC. Now we know the first DLC, the Curse of Osiris, is going to focus around Mercury. We're going to be heading back there, we're going to be exploring somewhere called the Infinite Forest, and according to a leak, we might be heading back to the Lighthouse, which we of course saw in Destiny 1 as the flawless base for Trials of Osiris. Now, thanks to an interview that Edge magazine did with Luke Smith, we may have a hint as to what the future locations are for DLC 2, DLC 3 and DLC 4. So here's what Luke Smith said. I talk about feature development on a short, medium and long-term time frame, and I think a lot of the post-credit sequence does a lot of the same. The long-term stuff is years away, while the short-term stuff is months away. The first thing the Traveler's Light touches when it leaves the cinematic is Mercury, a place we visited before and will again inside our first expansion, Curse of Osiris. So let's go ahead and take a look at that post-credit sequence, because this gives us a hint as to where we might be going after that first expansion. So if we watch it, we can see of course the Traveler's Light hits Mercury. From there, we then hit Mars. After that, the Reef, then onto Saturn, and finally those dark ominous ships at the end outside of our solar system. Now those ships are obviously the long-term stuff here. We aren't going to be seeing anything about them until possibly Destiny 3 at the earliest. But if we go backwards now, we can see that Mars is the second place the Traveler's Light touches. Now we know the second DLC has something to do with war mines, whether that's Rasputin or possibly Charlemagne. Playing through the campaign and some of the adventures on Io, Ikora and Astra Mur talk about how Rasputin is the last war mine, but they're maybe not entirely sure. It could be that Charlemagne is still around, and of course Charlemagne is located on Mars. Now it's worth noting that in Destiny 1, Mars was going to be a lot bigger than it was in the full game. Thanks to Jason Schreier of Kotaku, who actually broke the story about what happened with Destiny, we got to learn this little bit of information. So the Dreadnought was going to be a location at the launch of Destiny 1, and we would have to go into it and rescue Rasputin, which they ultimately decided to drop. But along with that, it says the Hive ship that had been cut from vanilla Destiny, as well as a new public space on Mars, complete with Strike and a new raid. That entire last Mars chunk was later cut out and passed to Activision's subsidiary, High Moon Studios, to develop for Destiny's full-size 2016 sequel. Obviously, the sequel didn't come out in 2016, it got pushed back a year, delayed till 2017. So does this give us the information that we need to say yes, the DLC 2 location is going to be Mars? Well, I think so. There was some other information about what that raid on Mars was going to be. Apparently it was going to be Charlemagne's Vault, and we know Charlemagne's Vault was going to be where you originally went and got the Thorn gun from in Destiny 1. Of course that was scrapped, so it all just makes sense that Mars is going to be that cut content from Destiny 1, obviously completely redone by High Moon Studios for the second DLC in Destiny 2. Now if we move on to the third DLC, which is probably going to be the biggest DLC, the Taken King size DLC, and we see the Reef. Obviously this means that we're going to be learning more about what happened to the Queen of the Reef. We don't really know what happened to her, all we know is that she is alive thanks to a Bungie livestream in which they confirmed it, and we also know that the Queen's brother is also alive, and I believe he actually crash landed on Mars, so maybe we'll meet him in the second DLC, and that will lead us into the third DLC pretty nicely. As to what's going to be happening with the Reef, well, is that just going to be a brand new social space, or is the Reef going to be expanded into a more bigger patrol location for us this time around? Maybe we'll see a raid on the Reef, which I know a lot of people want to see. We aren't too sure, obviously that's going to be a year out from now, but we might get little leaks and information as the time goes on. Now the fourth DLC, which is the equivalent to Rise of Iron, seems to focus around Saturn. Now there's a lot of possibility as to where it's actually going to be located on Saturn. It could be located on the planet itself, however I feel that is probably unlikely. We could be making a return to the Dreadnought, seeing a brand new location of the ship that we didn't before. There could be a brand new location on Titan, they could expand the current patrol location because it is a pretty small location currently in Destiny 2, or we could go to where I think we're going to be going to, and that is another moon of Saturn. I'm going to butcher the name here, but it is Enceladus. Now why do I say it's this location? Well, we've actually seen concept art of this location already for Destiny 2. This concept art here shows this location. We can see the ship in this sort of giant iceberg glacier, and we can see Saturn off in the skyline. it would make sense that this is a location in Destiny 2, because if we go back to Destiny 1 again, another piece of content from that game was Europa, and here is the concept art for Europa in Destiny 1. Kind of similar. A lot of people actually assumed that that first concept art I showed you was Europa, but then people started to notice, no wait, that's Saturn in the skyline and not Jupiter. Now we don't know how far along the Europa location was in Destiny 1, it might have been complete for all we know, but it just didn't fit into how they restructured the story. Well, what we could see here is they take Europa and they flip it on its head and they turn it into Enceladus. A lot of people have wanted a snow planet for some time, and I think this just makes the most sense. As to what that fourth DLC will focus around, well, it's probably going to be the Hive or the Taken, as it's going to be near Saturn. We know Zavathun, who is the sister of Oryx, has taken the throne, and we also know Oryx's body landed somewhere on one of these maybe moons. A lot of people had assumed that it landed on Titan, and that's what that sea creature was. It was like Oryx's dead body. Obviously that's not the case, but we have started to hear a lot about Zavathun in some of the strikes and missions. She is the one controlling the Hive at the moment, so it would make sense that they bring her in near the end of the DLC arc with DLC 4, possibly then leading into the next game, Destiny 3. So there you have it, those are the possible locations we're going to be seeing in Destiny 2's DLCs, along with some information to kind of back them up. Mercury is the first DLC location, which we already know about, and according again to Jason Schreier of Kotaku, I believe, it might be a procedurally generated patrol location, which could be kind of cool to see. For the second DLC, we're going to be going to Mars. As I mentioned, it's probably going to be that cut content from Destiny 1, a new kind of Mars hub where we'll probably see the Mars vendor, as well as some strikes, and obviously that cut raid that High Moon Studios is working on. DLC 3 more than likely to be on the Reef, where we learn more about the Queen and what happened to her, and then DLC 4 taking place somewhere around Saturn. My best bet is that it's going to be on Enceladus, the moon of Saturn, the icy snowy moon that a lot of people have wanted to see a location like that for a while, and it makes sense that they can take the cut Europa content and repurpose it into this brand new location. Plus there's concept art of the location for Destiny 2, so it kind of makes sense that that will be the fourth DLC location. So let me know what you guys think of this. Which of these locations get you most excited? From the information that we have of what the DLCs might be about, which story gets you most excited? And are you okay with them maybe using old Destiny 1 cut content, giving it a bit of a refresh, redoing it because they've had a lot of time to completely redo that stuff, and using that as the DLC locations in Destiny 2? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on that. Of course, if you guys enjoyed this video or if it's helped you out in any way, feel free to give the like button a big old hug, subscribe for more Destiny 2 content and coverage. Hope you guys have an awesome day, thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.